Welcome to Faith and Freedom. For the next few minutes, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you as we discuss the legal victories and challenges to your fundamental freedoms and religious liberties. Faith and Freedom comes to you from Liberty Counsel, a civil liberties education and legal defense organization. Join us now as Matt Staver, the President and General Counsel of Liberty Counsel, explains the latest legal issues all across this country in the courtrooms of America. Liberty Counsel is winning the battle for your constitutional freedoms.
Iowa joins the ranks of many states passing fetal pain bills and other pro-life legislation. Hi, I'm Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel and dean of Liberty University School of Law. Joining me is Matt Barber, associate dean for the law school and vice president of Liberty Counsel Action. Matt, there's been a wave of pro-life legislation that is pending or that has recently passed. Iowa, in the state Senate, is debating a bill that will ban abortion once the unborn child can feel pain, which is around... it looks like their HF 657 would ban abortions after 20 weeks, which is the point that they have determined that a baby can feel pain. Now, I think a baby can feel pain earlier than that. But at any rate, this particular bill would be a direct assault on Roe v. Wade. The bill comes as an abortionist, Leroy Carhart, has recently announced his plans to launch a new late-term abortion clinic in Council Bluffs, Iowa, which is tentatively scheduled to open next year in January, and he has opened several late-term abortion clinics around the country. He is being targeted now in some of these states, and he is finding that he has very little place to run.
Yeah, and Carhart, of course, is the infamous late-term abortionist known for the case at the Supreme Court. He was involved in the case the Supreme Court ruled on, saying that a partial birth abortion ban was constitutionally permissible. But unfortunately, pro-life movement is having difficulty at the federal level getting legislation that would ultimately weaken the damage to life that Roe v. Wade has caused. So the states, many of the states, legislatures and governors are filling in the gap, standing in the gap, and we see this slew of bills coming out of the states covering all aspects of the abortion debate, and it's really encouraging, and it's in keeping with the flow of the American people and kind of the tide of public opinion on this particular issue.
It is. You know, in this particular case, Iowa joins about 17 states, and the number keeps growing, that are expected to pass a fetal pain bill sometime this year. In Leroy Carhart's situation, who is the late-term abortionist, he has tried to open up clinics in several states, and he's been blocked by some of these very laws, including 4 states such as Indiana, Kansas, Maryland, and Nebraska have put forth this kind of legislation that would block these late-term abortionists, because these legislators and the people don't want these late-term abortionists coming into their town. So Carhart is really finding himself a man without a state, and for good reason. But there's many, many other pieces of legislation in addition to the fetal pain bill that's coming down the pipe with many of these states getting involved.
There is. And let me just quickly say, Leroy Carhart, let's put him out of business, period. And that's what I'd like to see happen in these states. I understand that McDonald's is hiring. He may be able to get a position there eventually. But, Florida, Matt, where you're from, is one of the...
I wouldn't put McDonald's down to that. I think I would boycott McDonald's if Carhart...
if they hired Carhart.
Yeah.
Well, Florida, you mentioned a slew of states. Florida has at least 18 pieces of legislation that they're pushing forward. They are a prime battleground state on this issue, and the governor there in Florida is really an ally to life, and he is looking to sign a lot of these pieces of legislation into law.
That's right. Of course, this is the thing of elections, and of course, what you had is the previous governor wanting to run for U.S. Senate, and Charlie Crist.
Right.
He was squishy on conservative values, and so he lost that race against Rick Scott, who came out of nowhere, and ultimately won the race for governor. And, of course, the race that Charlie Crist lost is the one with Marco Rubio, who beat him for the Senate. Now you've got to this pro-life rash of legislation coming through the state of Florida, so that is really good news. Also in Arizona, the Arizona House recently approved true pro-life bills. One would require clinics to provide medical abortions only to conform to regulations intended for surgical abortion centers, including the requirement to offer patients ultrasound images, which they obviously don't want to do, because once the woman sees what's inside, they will likely change their mind. Another would make donations to Planned Parenthood ineligible for a state income tax credit. The House approved a previous bill prohibiting race or sex-based selections in abortion in Arizona.
Well, the tactics vary, mandatory sonograms and counseling, pro-life counseling that encourages adoption and points out rather than discouraging adoption, which we see, which happens at Planned Parenthoods, and they don't want to show sonograms. Some of these bills would require, full disclosure. We have something called informed consent before somebody goes through any surgical procedure, yet the pro-abortion lobby seeks to get the consent without the information. They don't want informed consent. In fact, they want to blind people to the realities of what they're about to engage in. There are bans on abortions after 20 weeks of pregnancy being proposed, and Planned Parenthood, NARAL, NOW, the National Organization of Women, these groups are up in arms over this, and of course they cite the rhetoric of this being an attack on women's health care and all the nonsensical euphemisms that they use to avoid talking about what we're really talking about here, and it's the taking of innocent human life.
Well, it's great to see this legislation moving forward. Idaho has a fetal pain bill that they're moving forward with. Michigan has approved in the Senate the partial birth abortion ban. Nebraska has a bill to ban private insurance from covering abortions. That was approved by the state's unicameral legislature by a vote of 36-9. And that will now go for 2 more rounds of debates and votes before reaching the governor. Ohio has the fetal heartbeat bill, and the speaker actually amplified the heartbeats of 2 unborn children, provided testimony with regards to these individuals, so people who were voting on this could actually listen to the heartbeat before they voted on this fetal heartbeat bill. So in other words, once the heartbeat is detected, then you can't do an abortion. That would be a clear challenge to Roe versus Wade, because that's fairly early in the pregnancy. And
that's the point of all this, too, I think, is that a number of these pieces of legislation, if not all of them, will ultimately be challenged in court by the pro-aborts. And the goal being, of course, now that we have new medical science, Roe v. Wade was decided on very tenuous, to say the least, information. They basically said, well, we don't really know when life begins, and so we're going to go ahead and say that it's a violation of a woman's so-called right to choose. Much of the science today would challenge that, so if we get that science before the United States Supreme Court, they, I believe, have enough to overturn Roe v. Wade. The question is, those justices who happen to be pro-abortion, would they look at the science, or would their own personal political ideology trump?
Well, and of course, that's another reason why presidential elections matter as well, because it matters who is on that Supreme Court of the United States, whether they believe in the rule of law and will become someone who is going to struggle with and wrestle with the history and the text as opposed to simply ignoring it. Just briefly, Oklahoma has several pro-life bills, one of which would define human life at the beginning of conception. Some bills put standards on abortion clinics, a measure banning abortion after the baby can feel pain, and one is to eradicate embryonic stem cell research. South Dakota has a bill requiring 72-hour waiting periods before an abortion, and that was passed and sent to the governor and signed into law by the governor. Texas, Governor Perry said he would support a bill requiring women with their consent to receive a sonogram 24 hours before an abortion. And Virginia has a victory there in the Commonwealth, and that was a clinic regulation bill. And it just simply says you have to be regulated just like any other outpatient or other kind of medical facility, and that will put a lot of these abortion facilities out of business.
Absolutely. Well, Nebraska has a law banning abortions after 20 weeks. It's been on the books for a year and has yet to be challenged. This has really emboldened pro-life advocates to seek similar legislation in other states.
Well, give us a call at Liberty Counsel at 1-800-671-1776. We've been involved in the personhood amendment, and in fact, Dan Becker, who is with Georgia Right to Life, recently came out with a book on personhood that I endorsed, and I would encourage you to obtain that book. For more information on how you can get the book, you can call Liberty Counsel at 1-800-671-1776. It's a book regarding personhood, and we have been involved in Louisiana defending personhood so that the people of that state can vote on defining personhood from the moment of conception. Give Liberty Counsel a call. Become part of this ministry. When you call, you can ask for or go online and ask for the Patriots Handbook of American Liberty. It has the Constitution, the Declaration, and other things in there as well. You can also ask for my new book, Take Back America. That's the book, Take Back America.
You have been listening to Matt Staver of Liberty Counsel. Our hope is to encourage and inspire you to stand up for your faith, family, and freedoms. We can accomplish a lot when we work together. Get informed and get involved today. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter, The Liberator. We will send it out to you free of charge. Stay informed with our Liberty Alert email update. Just click on the website at www.lc.org or call us at 1-800-671-1776. Tune in next time to learn more about your rights right here on Faith and Freedom.